Hello. I'm making a video on my friend Dessa's lore. I had some fun making this. I did a lot of research. I watched every video in Dessa's playlist and wrote down in my notes every scrap of lore I could find. I will be using text-to-speech because I'm currently writing this script at 2 in the morning, so I can't talk out loud. 3 things before I start. I will be trying my best to do this in chronological order. Mother Deer is the same as Mrs. Deer. Father Deer is the same as Mr. Deer. I use them interchangeably. I don't want anyone to get confused, and this will be theory-based as I'm trying to put together the story. One more thing. Triggering topics will be included, as in abuse, siblings fighting, and death. Now let me start talking about the lore. So Mr. Deer proposed to Mrs. Deer and she accepted. They got married and they have Dessa and Delilah. But after that, Mrs. Deer and Mr. Deer start fighting and he becomes an abusive parent, and Dessa, and possibly Delilah, hate him for it. One reason I believe Father Deer was a bad person is reflected in his spirit design. From you can see he has darker colors and more evil looking than Mother Deer's design, which has more angelic and lighter colors. And in the video What If Mrs. Deer found out, she seems angry and upset at Mr. Deer. On to the next topic. The Deer family runs a store and it is a family business. Mother and Father Deer go out to the store one day and the Deer siblings are alone together for a while until they hear a doorbell, and Dessa answers the door and it is Officer Doggy telling them their parents died in a car crash and that they would have to go with him. Dessa was upset about the family business and how they could run the business if they weren't home. Officer Doggy said she was old enough to stay home and take care of the family business, but her siblings had to go with him. But Delilah convinced him to let her stay with Dessa, and he said she could stay with Dessa but that Danny was too young to stay with Dessa and had to go overseas to stay with his grandma. They said their goodbyes to Danny and everything was okay for a while. But then Dessa and Delilah started fighting and just disagreeing. Eventually they got into a bad fight and Dessa suddenly turned infected. Delilah was scared, upset, and ran away. Dessa attempted to chase after but was unable to catch Delilah. Delia had been running away for an unknown amount of time, but long enough to make it far away from Dessa and her house, and at this time she had come in contact with Tio. She asked where she was and Tio welcomed her. She asked how he knew her name and he claimed to have been watching her and wanted her to join. She said she wouldn't trust someone like him, and Tio said he could bring her sister, also known as Dessa, back from the infection, and she took the deal. The reason I think she took the deal is because of the orange pupil and she has an insolent sentinel form. We now move over to Danny. He is living with Kona. It seems his grandma has given Danny to Kona. It is unknown why she did it, but he seems to be living with him. He seems to be excited about experiments and inventions. He has created a fire glove. It gives him the ability to create fire from his hand, and he wants to show Kona as he seems to be very proud of it. That is the story I have put together for the Deer family. I hope you enjoyed it.